Hello and welcome to an edition of Soccer to the Max on a Sunday. Yes, this is an actual regular show. Even though in a few Sundays we'll have to do two in a row because US Men's National Team is playing again. We'll get into that a little bit more later towards the end of how we're going to do that. It'll be similar to how we did the last time. But Eric, of course, is here with me. How has your week been? How are you doing?
Oh, off the pitch, mixed results. On the pitch, slightly different mixed results.
Still mixed results for both, right? So and then, yeah, we'll get into that into our supporters club, even though we'll definitely get into somebody's results here in the headlines really quick. So just to go ahead and give you full, I guess, transparency. So this is going to be our new recording night for the show. It just works out with both of our schedules, and then it was difficult for me to do it on a Tuesday because I had to break up my day off in order to do this, and it's not always great. That doesn't always work the best. So it's easier just to do it after. It's my only day that I get off of work. During a decent time. I get off at 7, make it here by like 8 o'clock or whatever. So we may not always start at 10:30. We may start a little bit earlier. But the goal is to at least start by 10 going forward, depending on what's going on. But either way, so we missed Tuesday. So that show that we were going to do on Tuesday is what we're doing here. So I know that we've had other things happen since then in the world of football, soccer. So we won't really be talking a lot about that. Unfortunately, we'll touch on it in the supporters club and here with one of our headlines or whatever. But we're going to be talking a lot about things that on the American side that have happened in the last week. So unfortunately, if you're coming to us from more of the European flavor, this is not going to be your show for that. I'm sorry. Just too many big things have happened in one short span that we kind of couldn't not cover them or talk about them. It's like, and especially it's right up our alley of talking about big moments that are big things that will. I mean, they're going to happen in the future, very much like we've talked about the that World Cup being biennial thing various times. That is also a future thing, but we kind of have to talk about this. So before we get to that, we do have one sort of European centered thing, and I'm sorry we don't always mean to make this about Manchester United or Cristiano Ronaldo for that matter, but this was kind of interesting and kind of funny, right, Eric? Like maybe it could
Yeah,
happen, maybe it doesn't, but what if it did?
yeah, exactly. And again, part of this is my fault because being a huge United fan and seeing this news and hearing the rumblings, it's like, oh, really? Definitely have to bring this up. So, Cristiano Ronaldo, tremendous, thrilling start in his return to Manchester United. Already helping the team convalesce, scoring threat, everything is just coming up roses there. But now you're getting some rumblings around those around Ronaldo and those around the club that maybe you could be looking at a future manager, possibly even the next manager on the pitch as we speak. Again, for now, we're going to say it is all rumors, just mostly idle talk. He's been reaching out to people, however, especially players that he would be potentially looking to bring in. And those in the top brass are saying maybe 18 months. Personally, I would love to see it happen. I don't necessarily know if it would be the best, but maybe a season or so, get something under his belt. It would be a very quirky one off if it comes to fruition in the future.
Yeah, it definitely would. Uh, I don't know that I thought of Ronaldo as a coach necessarily when you kind of always see him being about himself and adulation. But then when you think about it, I guess what's the next step for him? if you want more of that adulation, right? You're not going to get that being a pundit.
No.
You're not going to get that coaching the youth leagues, really, or whatever. You're going to get that coaching some major players, some in some big leagues. And that's one way to get people to never stop talking about you, is you go straight from being a player to being a coach. And I think it's Tim Sherwood that mentioned, wow, he could even start being a coach as early as 2023. Could he be the next, Manchester United manager? Because every time Ole Gunnar Solskjaer comes under fire, especially right now, he's under that again with the recent results. I mean, do you really think that could happen? Like, Ronaldo could go from playing to basically almost being a player manager at United without going and let's say having time with the youth, coaching the youth team or coaching some other squad in Europe or something first. I mean, do you think that's realistic, or is that just Tim Sherwood kind of trying to stir up things?
I think, to me personally, it's more Sherwood stirring the pot. Now, if he were to retire and say, all right, take charge of United's Premier League 2 team, which is the U23s, something like that, then work his way up to the senior team after a year or two, I think that would be a more reasonable path. Or try something like Andrea Pirlo did, another top, even if not even a top, just like a middle of the road European club, cut his teeth, then come to United. That would be great. But jumping straight in, even with the chaos of things still surrounding the Glazers and them appeasing the fans for like, hey, this is what we want to do going forward, it wouldn't be the best immediately. So I like where your head is at, Tim, but let's tamper down even just a teeny bit.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't like that. I mean, not that we haven't had that before, right? But I mean, this was stuff that happened long ago, ages ago,
Oh,
that we
yeah.
had stuff like that. This wasn't. You don't see that ever really in the modern era with big squads where you can go hire literally anybody you want if you're Manchester United for the most part, or So, I mean, it's crazy to think that that's even being thought of, but I could see it maybe 5 or 10 years down the line if things work out. But it's like I can't imagine they wouldn't. Let's say Solskjaer doesn't work out, he can't rescue this form, or eventually the pressure just mounts too much and he can't circum that. So basically he just ends up being out. Like, I can't see the Glazers just going, oh yeah, we're just gonna put Ronaldo as the coach with no experience whatsoever, where he's still fresh off coming off the field, or coming off the pitch and everything. I just can't see that. And
No.
I can't see that 2023 replacing Solskjaer. I can't. I mean, honestly, I wonder if Solskjaer even makes his 3-year term that he has left, because this run of form could be worse. I mean, look at the fixture list, Eric. It's absolutely ridiculous what Man United has in front of them. Just to go on a little bit of a looking forward, I wonder how many of those games, that they don't go right, the Solskjaer have before the Glazers start getting pressure to make something happen.
Yeah, and all of the talk already is saying, okay, look at how long he's been here, hasn't won a trophy. To a lot of United fans, that's unacceptable.
You're
Yes,
already out of one competition, out of the
exactly.
Carabao Cup.
You're out of one, which, if you had to pick one to be out of, yes, you would say that this is the least important, but you're still chasing silverware. And especially after the performance against Young Boys in the Champions League, there's a lot of nerves. I get that. There should be. So if things go to where you're still not in the top of the pack at the Premier League table, yeah, there's going to be some questions asked in these next few games. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I see it being a really hard road to go for them. It's definitely something that, if you're Man United, especially with what happened this week with you have it's the little things, right? It's like they almost had an opportunity to drop 2 points if Mark Noble makes a penalty,
Mm-hmm.
which his record he would have made had David Moyes, who usually makes more astute decisions, doesn't make him come on as like a designated hitter and just say, "Hey, go kick a penalty. You haven't done anything at all, but go kick a penalty." And then basically United gets the same opportunity. The goalkeeper Martinez plays a bunch of games with Bruno Fernandes in his head, wanting Ronaldo to take the penalty. Ronaldo's even there, ready to take it. He has to get pushed away by other players so that Bruno takes it, and then Bruno skies it over the goal. So, I mean, you can't get any more crazy with your last minute loss on a terrible giveaway to Young Boys. Now you have Atalanta or Villarreal, who you lost to the last time y'all met in a huge final.
Still hurts.
Coming in. Yeah, it definitely still hurts. And it's another one of those things that shows that, like, you can't win. You can't win the big ones, and you can't win, when it matters for what you're doing. So, I mean, look, let's go through this really quick. I know there are many people that are like, okay, guys, we got to move on. We got to move on. And yes, we do. But you got Villarreal at home where they've had these bad results lately. You just lost Carabao Cup at home. You lost to Villa at home. So now you have Villarreal at home. Then you have Everton at Old Trafford as well. Another Saturday 7:30 in the morning game. They love that spot for Manchester United, apparently.
Well,
yeah.
That's why when you have over there at 12:30,
Yep.
get them on TV because they can't air
Exactly.
the 3 p.m. British games.
Sorry if you heard a dog going crazy barking here. Don't know if you heard that. I'm using a noise canceling thing, but that thing doesn't. I don't think it captures everything. So after that, you get the international break. You get Leicester, you get Atalanta, you get Liverpool, you get Tottenham, who are going through a bad run of form at the moment. But, they're still Tottenham. Atalanta again, Man City, and then finally, November 20th, you get a game where maybe you can breathe. Watford, Villarreal again, then Chelsea, then Arsenal, and then maybe you breathe again on December 4th against Crystal Palace. Look at that. That is nuts.
So basically, it's going to be a potentially terrible run clear through to almost Christmas. This is what we're looking at.
Yeah, it could potentially be really great or really bad. One of the two. And maybe there's a new coach by the time we get to all that. Who knows? But I don't think it'll be Ronaldo. Let's clear the air right there. I do not think it'll be Ronaldo. Maybe Ronaldo one day, right?
Yeah,
again,
I mean, maybe after this he goes home and manages in Portugal for a while. I think that would be.
I mean, his mom says that she wants to see him play for Sporting once before she passes or his career ends. But could you imagine him going and coaching for Sporting?
Absolutely.
Instead, I don't think we're gonna see him follow the footsteps of another Portuguese, Mourinho, and he's this guy that has to go to every single great club there is or whatever. But you never know. You never know what kind of manager Ronaldo will be until he actually is one. So let's see how that definitely goes. But moving on from that, and from this point forward, it's pretty much until we get to our winners and losers, which is at the end of the show, along with our supporters club. It's a very American focused show. So I'm just letting you know right now. Starting with, again, don't mean to make this personal, but I think sometimes these things are a little bit more interesting when they are a bit personal. Luchi Gonzalez was fired by the Hunt family at FC Dallas after they lost big to Houston last week. Listen, I get it. You lost to the worst team in MLS, basically. You and your rival as well, and not just 1-0, barely scratching. No, you lost big to your rival, and I think that was kind of like that was the moment to really make a statement to Houston and put yourself firmly in the chance to get that last spot for the playoffs, which they've been in the last 2 playoffs for Luchi Gonzalez. So that's a positive for him. But in the league, he has not been very good. But in fairness, Eric, it's not like the Hunt family have been giving him a lot to work with either.
No, I mean they've had their interest elsewhere that have been creating a lot of positive dividends. But as we talked about a lot, the key to FC Dallas in any of their success has been their academy, has been the fact that hey, you've got a lot of young kids. You can go ahead and do some winning with all those young kids, as he's taken FC Dallas, as you said, to the playoffs. But how much farther can you go? Because you know you're going to sell these kids on. You're not going to bring in a lot of veteran talent. They're going to be going to other MLS clubs. So you have this ceiling that you, through one reason or another, have set for yourself. And you can't go too much to bump up that ceiling. So if you keep hitting against that ceiling, even though you're expecting to break through, you really can't. So what happens when you all of a sudden fall below that ceiling to the floor? I don't think it's reasonable to say, okay, this is bad without saying, well, look at all the good that he did. But I don't know. Something about this, it doesn't smell right to me because he's done a lot with a little. And now, who would you potentially bring in who you're going to probably ask to do the same thing?
Yeah. My problem is that's the biggest issue with the Hunt family is okay, you've done great
Mm-hmm.
with your academy players. Ricardo Pepi is now getting a lot of interest from international teams, and if he does well again for the US, which I definitely will be very surprised if he doesn't start against Jamaica. Let's say he does well, he scores some goals there for the US men's national team. That's going to ratchet up his interest even more. And then, so you expect that, okay, he's going to be gone before you enter next season. He'd be gone in January.
Mm-hmm.
Then you lose one of your big pieces. Yes, he's still young and everything, but it's not just that. It's, you got lucky that Pepi and Jesus Ferreira have been able to be big wins for you and other academy players, but then you sell them off. So every time you win on an academy player, they go away. So what are you left with? A very bare bones team. And then every time you go and make a big splash signing, DP signing, they absolutely are awful. What has Franco Jara done at all? Nothing. Like, this is the problem. It's like you didn't really let Luchi have the opportunity to really field a team that he wanted,
Mm-hmm.
or be able to make some decent trades within MLS to get some players in. No, it's all right. You got like no budget basically, and you got to work with the kids.
Yeah.
You got to pull off the miracle that Oscar Pareja did. It's like,
Yeah, I
come
mean,
on.
do you remember the old show on the Food Network, Ready, Set, Cook?
Yes.
You're basically saying, okay, be on Ready, Set, Cook, but you have to make a 5-star meal. Have at it.
Yeah, that's gonna be difficult to pull off. It's
You
just not.
can't.
It's almost impossible. It's like you're not. It's not helping you at all, and you're putting him against the wall already. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the problem now when you go and hire a new coach. For one, the Hunts don't go and make splash coaching hires because they don't
No.
have money. They don't want to spend money on a coach.
No.
They want to go hire the next academy coach or who knows, the interim coach that's going to be in right now. Gosh, well, I had this pulled up already, and then whatever. I am Marco Ferruzzi, who's the FCD director of soccer operations, and he's been the interim coach before. Actually, he might stay on because they're that cheap about spending. And then, okay, so you don't go get a big, coach. And so then you're basically telling him to do whatever with these players that he has. You're going to give him no budget to really bring in other players to make the team better. So, yeah, maybe he rescues something and gets him in. Because they still do have a decent starting 11. It's just beyond the starting 11. They're really poor. They don't have much of a bench. They don't have a lot of depth. So, like, when Pepe goes off to international duty or anyone else that's on that team for that matter, you're going to see probably losses again. So, I mean, that's my problem with all this is that you're firing a coach that, yes, okay, he hasn't done wonders in the league. He's won you a playoff game. He almost beat the Sounders the year before that. I don't know. I just don't know why you have to make the mid-season change. But maybe Ferruzzi gets him in. But I just don't have a lot of faith right now. They had a little bit of a run, and then it absolutely collapsed on them. And it's upsetting. It's upsetting. I mean, look, I wasn't the biggest Lucci fan, but I thought he did fine for what you're asking. But I just think that they have these super high expectations for this team, but you don't spend like you have high expectations.
So
right?
it's either one or the other. It's either tamper your expectations, build your academy, sell players on, and be great, or you want success, go ahead and splash the cash for it. It doesn't have to be a terrible amount, but you have to prove that you do something. Those two messages have never reconciled. I mean, yeah, looking even at the standings right now, 27 points, 9 out of that last playoff spot. Who knows with these few games left because you've got a little bit of a logjam, but you still got that bit of a mountain to climb. It's not going to be pretty. So even getting in, that's not guaranteed.
Yeah, and it's a big mountain. It's not a small mountain. It is a big mountain. So, yeah, and that's if everything goes right for you, right? Like that's if it all goes swell, which it's not going to. There's going to be teams that are going to win that you need to lose. Like there's a lot that has to happen, and I just don't see that all going swimmingly that much for Dallas. But yeah, moving on from that, something much bigger is going to be affecting those teams in MLS and Liga MX because between MLS and Liga MX, they have decided to expand the Leagues Cup to include every single team. So you go from a very small tournament to an incredibly huge one to the point where you have to cut your season down. They're not going to cut it down. They're going to just shut down both seasons in August
for a whole month,
for an entire month to do a World Cup type knockout tournament. I mean, at least they did it in August and not June and July, where you'd be missing out on players that go to Copa America or Euros or other things like, Gold Cup or whatever. But still, Eric, I mean, that is a huge change to go from a small amount of teams to a lot of big ones.
Right. Because for those who are like unfamiliar with the Leagues Cup, it's only been around a couple years. We just had the final, which I'll definitely be getting into. It used to be all right, 8 teams. You have 4 from MLS, 4 from Liga MX. The MLS teams hosted the first round, and it was just a straight knockout tournament. All well and good.
It's very similar to that one that they used to have back in the day, the Superliga or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Just like that. And they were saying, hey, this is so successful. So they were like, all right, instead of randomly picking our teams, we're going to allocate them based on the standings. And then we're going to expand. They originally wanted to do from 8 to 16 teams. It was going to be 16 this year, but pandemic and such. So now they decided, you know what? It's in the US. It's going to make so much money. We have all these things. Let's just throw everybody in. All the MLS teams, all the teams from the top flight of Liga MX have at it. I have one gigantic glaring problem with this from a tournament mechanics standpoint.
Okay. And what is that?
How are you going to run it with 47 teams? 48, I can understand.
They're going to do 48 once MLS gets to 30 clubs.
Apparently. Yeah, great. Yeah. But how are you going to have it with a prime number beforehand? You've got to have some group of just 2 if you want anything to work.
Or you just let both of them have a bye or something. Maybe the top team gets a bye. The top team in Liga MX and the top team in that would make sense for the Supporters Shield winner or the MLS Cup and Liguilla winners to get buys straight into the knockout or something like that.
So then say that if you have like how they're going to do with the World Cup, 16 triangulars, and in this case, your triangular winners will move on around to 16. If you have those 2 teams get a bye in around to 16, now you've got 45 teams in 14 groups. You can do 45 and 15 and have one.
Well, they're going to have a round of 32, not a round of 16. It'll be a round of 32 knockout.
So
you're basically just eliminating 16 teams and then doing a round of 32 knockout.
Well, yeah. So I guess if that case, with the other 15 groups, you would have those triangulars, the top 2 move in, and then those other 2 teams would have a bye for the round of 32 knockout. That would make more sense.
Yeah. I mean, and then not only that, but there's another thing of also gifting 3 spots into the new CCL format to Leagues Cup. I mean, does that mean now you're going to have a 3rd place game then? Because how else would you do
essentially? Yes, if they're going full World Cup, so you would have a 3rd place match. And
this is crazy. This is supposed to be like a smaller tournament, and then you're gonna go and make this absolutely immense thing between. Now, granted, listen, I get it. People definitely want to see U.S. versus Mexico in club. Because we saw it with the Leagues Cup final, Santos and Seattle. Now, we're talking about 2 bigger clubs. We're talking a bigger club in Mexico, not the biggest, but a bigger club in Mexico, and then one of the biggest for MLS in Seattle. So that was a perfect pairing. Had it been like Cincinnati and, Monarcas, I don't know. right? Like that may not have been a big crowd that goes to that event or whatever.
Exactly.
And that's the thing too, is like, how is ESPN gonna feel about all this? Like, we went from having 8 teams to having 30 47,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're gonna what are you gonna do with all the TV for that? I mean, I guess perfect for ESPN Plus, I guess, but
They would
it's
have to.
like, dude, how are you gonna feel when you have like a bottom tier Liga MX team playing a bottom tier MLS team?
Yeah, because
And
everybody's going to be all up in arms and right in their seats for like Cincinnati versus Mazatlan.
yeah,
Whoopee.
not like, it's not going to be this beautiful thing that you're going to watch. It's going to be interesting probably, but yeah, I mean, I don't want to kill it before it happens, right? This is not happening
Mm-mm.
until 2023, so not until the year after the World Cup and everything. But it's just like, man, again, we talk about the World Cup every 2 years thing being a thing against the players. And man, even though you're cutting the season, you're not making the season shorter.
No.
You're just shutting down your season for a
Yeah.
month.
And if you're
They're
looking
still
at
playing games.
yeah,
Like,
and if you're looking at the timing for the MLS, you're right in the heart of the season because you're talking August-ish, around the range of the MLS All-Star game, which
yeah.
you have to wonder if that would still somehow be frozen or gotten rid of. But for Liga
Well,
MX,
that won't get rid of. They'll just move it to either June or July, or they're not going to get rid of that game because that's just too lucrative for MLS.
right, and then for Liga MX, they start their Apertura in July. You have, your
And
Campeón de
that's
Campeones.
really weird too. You're going to start it. You're going to start season, then shut it down for.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is not a every 2 or 3 or 4 year thing. This is an every year thing. So that is a lot.
It really
And then that
is.
doesn't even count Champions League, which the idea was at some point Champions League was to become a 50-team thing, and Leagues Cup would be the smaller 16-team thing. Now it's the opposite. You're removing the Caribbean and Central American teams, which, man, that has to not sit very well with them. Of you're not in this big competition, right? You're in this much smaller one.
Well,
And I mean, Champions League is supposed to be the much more grander thing,
right.
the thing that whenever you do eventually have that expanded Club World Cup, is supposed to mean more.
Yes.
But I mean, I don't know. The more lucrative thing of being able to say you're in this thing that takes up the whole year and it's 50 teams and you're involved in that, and then you get to face off against your region and then prove who's the best and go on. Whereas now it's just like, it's still cool, but it's like, man, you're seemingly putting a lot more focus on the Leagues Cup than you are Champions League.
And when we get into that, because I got a bit of a deep dive in how they were going to do the 50-team format versus how they're going to do this now, kind of what I feel wrong with both, because you're going to have a lot of stuff integrated mishmash in, which you could have executed perfectly, but you've now whiffed not once but twice, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I don't like it.
Yeah, there's I think it's interesting that we're going to do this. Let's see what happens, right? Maybe it could be a better tournament than we all expect, because this happens every time. Every time we say this every time, right? When they add teams to the Euros or they add teams to the World Cup, or it's going to water it down, it's going to make it worse, and then somehow you end up having the Cinderellas that do things, and then you go, maybe it isn't so bad. Maybe there is a reason why March Madness is this big thing in the United States. And you're trying to capture that audience. So, there is that at least. So let's talk about that, Eric, in conjunction here, since they're kind of tied together. they are tied together with the fact that they get spots into the other one. CONCACAF Champions League. I mentioned it was supposed to be 50 teams. It is now 27 teams, which has been changed because of this deciding to do this. This will also happen in 2024.
Yo,
right? Okay.
yes and no. How it originally was going to go was like this. Starting in the fall of 2023, and I will put up the original article for reference here.
Yeah, I mean, it was supposed to be fall 2023.
Mm-hmm.
You
fall of 2023 was going to be the group stage portion of it. Then, come the spring of 2024 was going to be the knockout stage. Now, how it was going to be organized originally was this. You have 50 teams, 20 from North America, MLS, Liga MX, and the Canadian Premier League. To where it used to be, well, it is now, Canadian teams could not qualify through MLS. You had to qualify through the Canadian Championship. That level got removed. So you could Canadian teams could qualify through MLS.
Right. I mean, you still have, so with this system, you still have the 3 spots for Canada.
Yes.
But 2 of them come out of the Premier League and 1 of them comes out of that Canadian Championship tournament.
Right.
Or whatever.
Now, those 20 teams were going to play in 4 groups of 5. So think like the old Europa League. It was only a single round robin group stage. So you go and play either home or away. And after those 4 matches, the group winners and the runners up were going to go to the round of 16. The next 6 teams were going to go into a play-in round. That was for that zone. Then you had for Central America another 20 teams qualified through league play and a new Central American Cup that CONCACAF was going to develop. So very similar to like La Copa UNCAF.
Yeah. Was that the one that they played to get into the Gold Cup?
Right. So those 20 teams, they would also be in 4 groups of 5. The group winners were going to go in. So the group winners and the second place teams in each of those groups were all going to go to the play-in round. Then you had the last 2 teams, which were going to be exclusively Caribbean. 2 groups of 5. The group winners would be going through to the play-in round. And those 10 teams were going to be determined not just through league play, but also through a new Caribbean Cup, which CONCACAF was going to develop. So you not
which
only
they're
have
still doing. They're still doing this tournament.
Then after you have that, you have the play-in round, which was going to be home and away. Then the round of 16 with those play-in winners, and then you would still have home and away to a one-off final. To me, that was almost perfect. If I was in charge, I would say every group winner goes through. Every group runner-up goes into the play-in round, along with the best third-place team from all of the North American groups and the best third-place team from all the Central American groups. That would have given you your 16 teams to go ahead and go in through your play-in round. Then you would have had your round of 16. Everything would have been fine. So that way, it would have been more even, if not entirely monetarily beneficial. So I get why they went ahead and they did that. But before that even got into the lexicon, CONCACAF looked at the Expanded Leagues Cup and will be like, okay.
Yep, we can't have two 50-team tournaments. So we had to pick one that's more lucrative for us because for MLS, it's more important to have the biggest fish in the sea, Liga MX, to go against. Then they include all these other teams that maybe they will not bring as much cachet when you're trying to sell tickets and TV revenue and all that other stuff. And so now they have this new field, which includes 27 teams, but 5 of them, which are the champions of each region, will automatically get buys into the round of 16. The champion of MLS, the champ of Liga MX, which they have to decide which one of those is going to get in, and then the Leagues Cup champion, Central America champion, and the Caribbean champion will all get through. And then the other 22 have a home and home opening round knockout to figure out, they just have a home and home, like two games against each other to figure out who goes on into that round of 16, which is then your regular knockout phase tournament.
So with this, you're keeping the Central American Cup, which is great. You have 5 teams go into the first round. So you're runner-up, you're losing semifinalists into play-in winners, which I would assume you're matching up your quarterfinalists. You're losing quarterfinalists. Your Caribbean Cup, you're runner-up, and you're going to have a third-place playoff. Yeah. You're still keeping your Canadian Championship. That winner goes on. The U.S. Open Cup winner goes into the first round.
That's coming back next year, which that's more games that you're then playing.
Then your Canadian Premier League, which are going to be your top 2 from there, or rather, your top 2 CPL teams. Then your other 4 MLS clubs, which you'd have to decide. Your Leagues Cup, as we had mentioned, runner-up and the winner of a third-place match. And your 5 teams from Liga MX. Now, when you were saying as far as the Liga MX winner, that goes back into the Campeón de Campeones match. So you would have to schedule that. So all of
these MLS is still doing the MLS champ versus the Liga MX Campeón de Campeones winner game again as well. So
all of these cups, US Open Cup and all of these things, they would be determined in the fall.
Yeah.
Then you have your winners and all of your spots. It's like, all right, so now come the spring or come the next year, 2024, it'll be all right, let's go. So in essence, the qualifying for all of this will be in 2023, all of your cup tournaments. Then you get going with the tournament proper in 2024.
Right. Yeah, but I mean, that's a lot of games, Eric. That's a lot of playing. And like for me, the biggest problem I always have with MLS and them trying to compete in all these competitions is, where's the money? Where's the money for this?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to give, like, it's okay. So now it's not only CONCACAF Champions League, Open Cup, now it's Leagues Cup. Are you going to give more than just targeted allocation money to all these teams? Like, you better do something. They got to expand these rosters more to be able to field squads, to be able to play in your league, play in your FA Cup equivalent, play in your Champions League equivalent, and then play in your random tournament that you decided to have in the middle of the season. So, like, is MLS going to pony up the money as well? Because that's my problem. It's like, you're still going to keep everything the same and then have these tournaments. Wonderful. Woo! Yeah, adding more stuff, but you're not going to be adding in the money thing. And that's my thing. It's like, in order for the MLS teams to compete against the Liga MX teams, that's what you got to have.
Yes. Because my thing like this, number one, with this 2017 format, I have said it about the current format. This is not a league. This is a Champions Cup.
Right.
Plain and simple on a basis of nomenclature. Number two, what if, and more from a Liga MX perspective, because even though they don't have promotion and relegation, the bottom three teams, which would be at risk for relegation, are still set up to pay fines to help with those in the development league. Those fines have been lowered, but they would still have to pay that too, along with keeping everything running.
I just feel like at some point we're gonna get the end of relegation for Liga MX probably.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if at one point that it just ends.
Yeah, because with all of that, they've already paused it for 5 years, and you're right. What if that just ends altogether? Plus, with all of this, with these tournaments, the Copa MX basically is going to have to be gone, just as you were starting to get that back. So, with all of this,
then that's the thing about the Open Cup too. It's like, when are we going to just get to the point where somebody just says, "Oh, the MLS teams are not going to be an Open Cup anymore"?
Precisely. And you're going to potentially see this in both an expanded Leagues Cup and for this new, and this is what I'm going to go back to calling it, the new CONCACAF Champions Cup. Because to me, if you want to be a Champions League, you got to have a group stage in some form. Rant for another day.
Agreed. You can't call it a Champions League if it's not a group stage.
Exactly. So what if in both of these tournaments, the new one and the revised one, you're trying to give MLS a better chance to win? What if, with all of this, they still don't? What if, even though you have a numerical advantage in the League's Cup, what if a Liga MX team still wins? Or you still have a Liga MX
it doesn't really mean you have totally... you might have, 7 more teams, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or eventually you'll have 10 more teams, or 8 more teams, or whatever. But it's just like, listen, it doesn't matter, because they'll still find a way to lose when you get to the top echelon of because even when we're talking about middle tier Liga MX clubs, they still have more cash and more bigger squads than the middle tier and bottom tier MLS squads.
Yeah.
So
they're going to be benefiting. This
whole league needs to get revamped to be able to afford all this.
Yeah, and they're going to be benefiting from having more money because there's more exposure for all of these clubs in the U.S. market rather than the U.S. market and the other way around.
Yeah. Look, we know the product on the field. It'll be fun. It'll be fun to see all those rivalries. I'm sure that we will have many packed stadiums and all of that stuff. It'll be fun to get to that point. I just hope that the league does right by the teams and by the players. There's supposedly going to be some kind of rest periods and all this other stuff for the players and everything. But I don't think that just shutting down for a month is totally the answer, but let's see. They still have a whole 2 years before we really got to get this going and all. So there will be more coming out of that by then. So before we get into our 2 other things, let's go through the other announcement that happened in lieu of all this that basically got overshadowed. Because number one, it's not something that's happening to, let's say, NWSL. It's a second division league that has been made for the women's league. There is now going to be a women's soccer league, a USL Super League, that is going to be getting Division II status. No promotion relegation yet. They may perhaps one day have it. Who knows? But they will be striving for Division II status. and they'll have the Girls Super Y League, the Girls US Academy, the Women's Super Professional League, the USWL League, which at one point next year will have 30 teams in it. So let's see how many US Super League teams we can get here and actually be sustainable, because that's the problem, isn't it, Eric? It's not necessarily that this works or doesn't. It's the NWSL itself has problems being able to maintain teams. And they went through all that shuffle to have what they have right now. Finally, they got a really good TV deal, or, well, streaming TV deal with the Paramount Plus deal. But, man, they had to do a lot to get there. And now you're adding another league. Do you think this is... Obviously, it's good for the game.
It is.
Right? To have more divisions. But are you worried at all about sustainability for this?
I am, with how they're setting it up. Now, with the W League, which is going to have 30 teams, which would be fantastic, a very sizable like feeder pool, and another option for like a players who are out of college, going to college, what have you. It is semi-professional, or as they put it in the release, pre-professional. I don't mind that, because that means, all right, it's easier to be sustainable because, at least in theory, and a lot of times very much in practice, it's going to be much cheaper to run. So you can have a semi-professional 30-team league, and that way you can have those players move on for professional contracts. What the Super League is trying to do, being that second professional league, that's where I really get worried. I know there's like no gap between semi-pro and pro, but if you're struggling to find owners for top national team level talent like the NWSL, how are you going to find to where you're not even getting that talent? Are there going to be some sort of rules to where, okay, you can be a little bit smaller or having smaller areas, but at the same time, how much smaller can you get when you're seeing the situations for the markets they have in the stadia and the facilities for the NWSL? What wiggle room are you really giving yourself? To me, I'm not seeing it. Ideally, if this were a smaller type pyramid like they have with the Women's Super League in England or other places, great. But we haven't had that focus at U.S. Soccer to develop anything kin to that.
Yeah. I mean, the thing with the USL, I will say, is that they have a lot. They know how to manage having a lot of teams, at least people involved in the USL. So how much that transplants to a women's league, we'll see, because obviously discrepancy between women's and men's leagues. There's just, it doesn't always go 1-to-1, right? And it's just, there's so much out there now. You're competing with so much. It's not like, when we were kids, you didn't have availability for everything like you do now. Right? Like, I don't have an NWSL team to root for, because I don't have, as a person that's from the Dallas area, I just don't root for Houston teams in general. It's just always been in our DNA. You just don't.
Yep. Dallas, right? Houston, Austin, you've got your own city,
like
interstate
the Spurs was kind of like the exception when the Mavs were really bad, right? Like you could kind of, it was okay for you to be a San Antonio fan on the side,
right?
But like Austin and Houston, no, you don't go that route. So like for me, I don't have an MLS NWSL team to root for naturally. It's one that I would have to really watch that league and decide, okay, this is my team that I care about, that I'm going to watch and whatever. Like, it's a different thing. Will they eventually get to that? I mean, USL has a North Texas team, but I haven't really sat down and tried to watch that league because There's just too much right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just on the men's side. You talk about the women's side, you know, like I think it's great. It's a great idea. I think it's really good that this is happening. But man, I just hope it doesn't fail because you don't get enough of an audience. You don't get enough people out there paying the tickets to watch, uh, go to the stands and watch these teams. I mean, obviously, hopefully, as you get further and further out of the pandemic, we'll see how this gets going. But I think this is a great idea. I just worry about sustainability,
Of course.
and I just that is a worry. It is a worry. So, but I think it's great that the USLW League is existing. The NWSL seems to be doing okay now, and now you're going to have a USL Super League in 2023. So let's see if we can get that all going. But it's great.
Yeah.
The best thing it's for is continuing to develop feeder systems for women and girls that want to continue down a path of playing soccer when you get past the youth team, right? Because
Yeah.
not everybody's going to go to college
No.
and get a scholarship. Not everybody's going to wind up playing for the U.S. Women's National Team. Not everybody's going to get into NWSL. So, and obviously going to Europe is a whole nother thing. Not everybody's going to get that opportunity either, right? So this is helpful for, like, let's say even other North American, like Canada doesn't have a, Liga MX has the Liga MX Femenil, but like that also helps, the Canada for now as well to have
Right.
more teams to play in. So, it's a good thing. I just worry about how long it can continue to exist.
Yeah, for the W League, I'm really rooting for. And again, I think that would be much more sustainable overall because it is semi professional. I
Right.
then worry about the Super League itself. Where are you going to get the batch of owners who are committed and everything from to have what is going to be a second division league? If a lot of even former players or whatever, like you had with Angel FC or others, come through the woodwork and say, hey, I want to be able to do this and help this too, or even come about with the W League teams, prove me wrong, great, fantastic. I will grab my garlic pepper and eat more crow any day of the week. But in the current climate, you got to show me where they are first. Then show me,
Yeah.
hey, they're actually going to go through with it too.
Yeah, certainly. But let's move on to a new topic. A new topic that we're starting this week. Looking at perhaps somebody that you really want to highlight, a big winner for you in this week. So it doesn't have to necessarily be a team. It can be a player. It can be a coach. And it doesn't have to be a club team. It could be, because we can use this with national teams as well when you get into the national team, international breaks. So for you, who is a big winner this
Now,
week?
I'm fully going to admit, if you know when you listen to the kickoff, our gridiron football show, myself with Harry Broadhurst, we also have our little football rivalry. Him supporting those dirty Liverpoolians, myself with the far better shade of red in Manchester United. So throwing that out there as a preface. Also, for those of you who know, I have a little bit of a penchant for placing down a couple of coins here and there for certain things to happen. As much as I talked about my placing a wager on Manchester United to win the league at 9-1 odds, there was another little bet that I took a flyer on, and it involved two teams, Leicester City and Brentford.
Okay.
Leicester
Two good
City being
choices.
the best club of all the teams in the Midlands, and Brentford performing the best of the top teams who were promoted. Harry, let me congratulate you and your Reds. You had a very valiant effort, some major milestones, but Brentford, huge, crucial point 3-3 draw, helping keep my bet alive. Thank you so much for letting that happen. My personal
It says a lot when Jurgen Klopp himself was asked, "Do you feel like they deserved something out of that game?" He's like, "Oh, definitely, yes." Yeah, they had him against the wall at times, So, of course, Salah also didn't help himself. That Liverpool could have gone up as well in that game. But man, definitely worth it to Brentford. They've held themselves well against the Giants so far in this season.
Just don't do it against us, and we'll be fine.
But
otherwise,
I don't know. The way
go
things are
on.
going, I wouldn't be surprised at all. The way things are going, but honestly, I think that's a good shout. But I'm going to go to a different. First of all, I want to give a secondary one to Raul Jimenez, who came in, scored his first goal, and then helped Wolves get a victory on the season. That's really great for him. After that terrible head injury that he had last season, for him to come back and then finally be able to get on the score sheet and do something for Wolves, I think is awesome, and I'm glad to see it for Raul Jimenez. Second, Arsenal has to get my biggest winner this week. You win the 2 games that everybody expects that you should win, that you're supposed to win, that everybody was like, okay, if Arteta loses against Burnley or Norwich, that's it, right? Like, you gotta get out of here. But then you go to the North London Derby on Sunday, and you absolutely knock Spurs on their ass in the first 34 minutes of the game, the fastest it's ever happened in the entire history of that game, and they played a ton of matches against each other. That's amazing. Now, obviously, Tottenham improved in the second half or whatever, but they didn't look. Nuno himself said it. I picked a bad team. But honestly, it was just like a day for Arsenal. That Emirates was rocking everything. So, hats off to Arteta for getting it right for a 3-game string so far.
Yeah, I mean, really saving himself for all the different chants. Arsenal hanging around, even though it's early in that relegation battle. This is the spark of exactly what they needed. Kudos to Arteta for you know what? I gotta save myself. I gotta save this season. This is the perfect time, especially culminating in that North London derby. This is when you get it right.
Yeah, and then now they're on top of Tottenham on the standings as well, on the table. So that's funny. Everybody is looking up at Tottenham. At one point, had 3 games from 3, and now they've gone and lost. And now they have a game against Brighton on the weekend, and if Arsenal can win that one, going into an international break, man, you have to feel great if you're Arteta to win. They won 2 games by the slimmest of margins, right?
Mm-hmm.
But those are still victories regardless. And then you go out and whoop your rival, or you go out, keep going in the Carabao Cup, and you go and whoop your rival. And then you got a game against a Brighton team. Brighton, who, say what you will, Eric, but they have been fighting themselves. They have been very good so far this season. Keeping in the pack there. They're above Brentford and above Aston Villa.
They're another one who's off to a flying start. So you get that early scalp, and then all of a sudden you're going from bottom of the table to going from safety. Now it's like, all right, you're more comfortable in where you were in those European spots and thereabouts. So you can just sit back a bit in October and be like, okay, now we can breathe. Now we have a proper season.
Definitely. So, who is a big loser from the weekend for you, or from the week?
We mentioned this before, and this time I have to give an outright apology to Rachel. But we talked about this level of Mexican dominance in teams like the tournaments like the Leagues Cup and CONCACAF, there were some pretty major L's, and we're hoping Seattle get a chance against like Santos
Or Leon.
or against Leon rather. 3-2 loss, so it's like right as things were going well for Sounders coming back up, and all of a sudden just poof, you blow like the major chance. And on the heels of Philadelphia Union crumbling over 2 legs in that match, it's like, huh, what now?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so sad.
No, it was sad, man. You thought that was going to be the time. If there was a team that would have done it, and I was going to double down on that too, of Seattle just sadly, man. And this isn't, America. This isn't one of the Cruz Azul. This isn't like one of the bigger teams. This is Leon. Yes, they are one of the better teams by now, but historically, Leon is not. And then, like, you go and you can't beat them. Just man, that was your moment to have an MLS team finally overcome a Liga MX team in a final in a time that mattered, and can't do it.
It just makes you wonder. It makes you wonder.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, really. It is. So, supporters club, really quick here. We go to Manchester United, so I'm gonna go there again. They have an interesting game against Villarreal on Wednesday, so that will tell you a lot, I think, about where the team is, depending on what they do there. Valencia, I thought, did one heck of a great run to equalize after being down to 10 men. Unfortunately, when they've had to face against the 2 big giants, they didn't do well. They played well against Madrid. I feel like they ran out of gas because they don't have the depth that Madrid does to bring on the players that they do. But they I think that game against Cadiz, you got to get that one, get it back. Dortmund lost as well. No Erling Haaland, so that's a big blow. But they lost. Marseille lost to Rennes, and now they are no longer unbeaten, but they've done well so far this year. America drew in the Clásico against Chivas. Oh man, my teams did not do great.
It was a mighty rough week, but I'm right there with you. I'm already circling the calendar.
The only win for me was AC Milan beating Spezia. Brahim Diaz, man, he keeps doing things. He keeps doing it for Milan. And another Maldini gets on the score sheet. The grandson, the son of Paolo Maldini gets a header to get a goal for
when you're in the family business of score goals for AC Milan. I mean, come on, you got to keep the legacy going.
Yeah, definitely, you got to. So you were saying, Eric?
Yeah, I'm saying I'm already circling on the calendar. It's a matchup of 5th and 6th in the East. DC playing Orlando down in Exploria Stadium. Yeah, Lions, the goals have kind of dried up a little bit, which is kind of a concern. And I'm wondering, okay, why now? Going off of a 3-1 loss, and then, all right, New England is forgivable because they're New England. It was 2-1. I get that, but something up front that was just going great all of a sudden has stopped. and I'm a bit worried. Whereas with DC, on the other hand, again, it's Cincinnati, but picking up a 4-2 home win, that puts my mind a bit more at ease. So now, October 2nd, which is right around the corner, that clash, maybe they're still like right next to each other and vying for home field in the first round with those playoff spots. It's going to be a very nervous night for me. Very nervous.
Yeah. Hate when you get to those moments. For me, it's like that all the time. With FC Dallas, I feel like I just got to be on pins and needles all the time every time they play. Because when you think you have it in the bag, even like yesterday, they lose to Vancouver. Just man, and I feel like they're just gonna keep going down there. I mean, at least Orlando's still in playoff position. So is DC. That's going to be an interesting fight there. Now, especially that Atlanta has stormed back into the picture. They have made it yet another team that it's going to be in the mix there and Montreal too. So man, that Eastern Conference is going to be fun to watch. And I mean, LA just lost to Austin, so that doesn't help there. That makes things even a bigger debacle, I think. And it's funny when you look at all the three Texas teams are at the bottom and in the distance away from the rest of that like middle pack there. So not a good look for Texas at all. But that's gonna be it for this week. All right. So like I said, we won't have a show on Tuesday. We will have a show again on Sunday to look at things and again go over our winners and losers supporters club, our headlines, everything. That will be much more looking ahead at what did happen that week instead of this one that's a little bit retroactive because we kind of already had this show built up and we had to talk about these things. But yeah, and then unfortunately for me, it was nice because last time the U.S. men's national team calendar kind of broke well for my work schedule. This one does not. They're playing games at normal hours. So even the Sunday game is going to be early, an hour before I get off work. So I actually have to go home and watch the entire game. And then we will probably start the show at 10, and then right after that do our regular episode, and then the Tuesday or the Thursday and Wednesday shows will just be when I get off work really late. Unfortunately, I don't know when I will have time to. I might have to just watch highlights and let Eric carry the shows there, but
yeah. Believe me, I'll be doing my old school live tweeting with everything. Yeah. So you just follow me on Twitter at Squid Sports Head. You'll at least get a great idea.
Definitely. I forgot to have that ticker going while we were talking here, but if this is your first time listening or I don't know how many time listening, we appreciate all of that. Thank you for watching live if you did on Twitch or Twitter or the Facebook page or wherever. It's always appreciated as well. And of course, you can listen to us after the fact on all the podcast places that there are. Overcast, Google, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, all those places. We're there. You can listen to us. Give us a shout out, give us a review if you can. That will definitely help. The 5 stars or whatever you feel like we deserve. Really appreciate that. Thank you so much for being with this new format of the show. We really do appreciate it. And listen to the rest of the WTM network as well. I do the video games show. Eric does the Gridiron NFL show. He also does an actual game show. Life is like a game show that you definitely should check out. And of course, the man that makes this an entire network, Mark Radlich, with all of the entertainment package in one man, basically with his crew. Check out all the Radlich stuff as well. So we even do some wrestling. So if you like wrestling, Mark does reviews for that as well, and of course that wrestling show. So, and some anime too, which they're coming back this week after they've had a little bit of a layoff. But until next week, see you later, everybody.
Peace.